Hi, my name is Lorelei Armstrong, and the career profile I'd like to share today is for a grief counselor. So grief counselors work in a number of different areas. They are found working in funeral homes, nursing homes, hospice care, different social service agencies, and nowadays we have grief counselors in our schools. So what does a grief counselor do? Typically a grief counselor provides support and guidance to individuals and families who have experienced a major loss, such as the death of a loved one, or perhaps they're going through a divorce. And the grief counselor helps these people to be able to understand and accept the feelings that they're going through, and to realize that their loss, in the case of a death, their loss is very real and permanent, and to be able to help them through the grieving process. So a grief counselor needs to have a lot of coping skills and needs to be able to really understand the grieving process so that they can help their clients through every stage of that. A grief counselor might help just an individual, they might help families, and they can also facilitate in group therapy sessions where people who are facing similar challenges and issues get together and they talk and share their experiences to help heal one another. Counselors also need to evaluate the mental condition of their clients. They need to look for signs of depression and suicide. And if they see any of these physical or mental symptoms, grief counselors need to refer their clients to a physician or to a psychiatrist to be able to have them provide additional care and support. I talked a little bit about the different places where a grief counselor could work. Typically they work for about 40 hours a week. Sometimes they do need to be on call because, as we all know, we don't know when there's going to be a crisis that to have to deal with. And so, especially in a hospital setting, a grief counselor could work 24/7, and they do often have to be on on-call status. Some of the typical stressors is that the kind of clients that you deal with as a grief counselor are in one of the most fragile situations in their life, and so there's going to be a lot of very challenging emotions. People who experience a death of someone close to them, they're often in shock, they're in denial, they go through a stage of anger, they feel very lonely, sometimes they feel very depressed, and sometimes they feel guilty. And so a grief counselor needs to be able to be very calm and compassionate as they express their feelings and work through that. And they kind of have to be a little bit detached too, to not get wrapped up in the emotions of their client, but to be able to continue functioning as a resource and a professional for them. And because of the nature of the people they're working with, the stress could affect the grief counselor, so they need to make sure that they're taking very good care of their own mental and physical health too. And with an on-call status kind of a job, the family of a grief counselor could experience some additional stress because of that person having to be gone at irregular hours. So those are just some of the things to watch for a grief counselor position. Typical benefits, there's a lot of funeral home chains across the nation, large businesses, and such as a hospital. They would offer a pretty good comprehensive benefit package with health and insurance and retirement and family leave, but they may not be able to offer the flexibility of kind of putting together your own schedule, whereas a smaller business might not offer the benefits, but they might allow you to be able to be more flexible with your schedule. Let's see. So some of the educational requirements for grief counselors, they do need a bachelor's degree in some kind of a human service, counseling, psychology field. And most places require that they do have a master's degree. They are often required to work under the supervision of an experienced professional for a year, and then typically they have to be certified in their state, so that means they need to take a certification test within their state. And some places, some employers, they may want you to be specialized in a grief therapy program, and they would want you to get that through an accredited organization such as the American Academy of Grief Counseling. So that's a little bit on the educational requirements. And then starting salary, you could expect maybe around $30,000 just without a lot of experience. And then as you get more education and more experience, you could go anywhere up to $57,000 to $60,000 for salary. One little side note that I found when I was researching this was that one site suggested that you take the opportunity to volunteer at a hospice and to get some training there with them and to kind of get a feel for if this is something that you would like to do. And I thought that was a great idea, and I think that's something that I'm going to seriously consider pursuing. So that is the career profile of a grief counselor. Thanks.